Thanks for watching. Today I sit down with Mitch Kezar, who is a photographer, photojournalist, and now he's daylighting as a dog trainer. But Mitch is just an interesting person. Thanks for watching. Thank you also to Giovanni and the Hired Guns and Crush South for the intro music. Hope you enjoy.
I'm on the road again, half drunk with a lit cigarette. I don't know when I'll be back in this town. At least that's what I tell her. Baby, I'm just saying, maybe I just think too much. I'm leaving in the AM, baby, are you saying? I know that you drank too much. And this is what she said to me. I'm just your ordinary fuck. There's nothing special about me. I still bump my more night when I get drunk. I'm just telling you, I'm not playing you. I just wanna be the real me around you. The real me around you.
This is Mitch Kezar, Wendigo Images, but trying to be retired, but can't quite stay away from work is kind of the...
Why would you quit having this much fun?
Right.
So I learned at the coffee shop the other day the definition of being retired. Like, what? 6 Saturdays and a Sunday
Right.
every week.
Right.
So that's a goal. What would I do? I don't know. I've been doing this. I'm probably the only guy that joined a shooting war to get out of milking cows.
You did, huh?
Oh yeah, I grew up on a dairy. And
In Thief River, right?
in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Yep. And graduated from high school in '69, and I was already working for the newspaper up there because I was a FFA kid, and I was a chapter officer, regional officer, and then a state officer as well. So I was pretty amped up and all about agriculture and all of that good stuff, and had a partly okay, partly crappy draft number. They were drafting everybody left and right. I had a good friend of mine who let himself get drafted and went to Vietnam and spent all of 3 days there, came home missing an arm, a leg, and an eye. So I thought to myself, I don't need any of this action. And working at the paper, I had been getting PIO. That's photographs coming in from all of the service branches, and the Air Force had the best looking stuff. It was by a long shot. There were legions ahead of the Army and the Marine Corps and everyone else. So that, man, I like this photography stuff. Beats milking cows. I got to get into this. So I got into this long discussion with my father about milking cows, and I'm like, we need to not do this. We need to sell these cows, and we need to get registered Black Angus and get bred heifers. We'll make more money. Won't have to. Did I mention we won't have to milk cows anymore? And he said, we're not doing it. And I said, come on, Dad, we're not doing it? No, we're not doing it. So being 18 and full of myself, I took the keys off the hook, drove to town, joined the Air Force 5 minutes later. And first phone call I got back, I was in basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, and they said, you can make a collect phone call anywhere you want. So I called home. Mom says, yeah, I'll accept a collect call, sure. And I said, Ma, what's all that racket? She said, I'm in the barn. I said, well, I can tell you're in the barn. What's all that noise? She said, oh, they're slamming the doors. On what? On what? On the cattle trucks. Dad sold the whole herd. So that was that.
Did he ever go to beef or anything after the
No, but
milking,
my
or?
brother did for a bunch of years afterwards. He's 4 years younger than me, so he raised beef there on and off a bunch of years and stuff. And my dad had a railroad job, so he didn't really care. But I don't think he realized how much I really didn't like milking cows.
Right? Was it like a third generation? Was your grandpa?
No,
the
we were
homesteader?
no. My dad was in the Navy, and then he got discharged after 4 years and moved back to Thief River, and that's how that all started. So we just got acreage, and then when we were like 10 years old or something like that, we moved to this bigger farm and had dairy animals. So I think it was his way of keeping us out of trouble and teaching us how to work, because that sure worked.
Right.
I can outwork anybody.
Right.
I'm not throwing 85-pound hay bales any longer.
Right.
Everything's been easy. I haven't worked a lick since 1970. That was the year I went in the Air Force.
Right. And you guys still own that land?
Yep.
Some of it? All of it?
Mom is sitting in that farmhouse right now.
Really? And how old is she now?
90.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And, so Thief River, and that's still on the whole property, and that's where you guys
Yeah, that's
meet
where we
and
all grew up,
everybody?
all 6 kids. Yep, we all
Awesome.
grew up on that farm. And Mom is still there, rents it out.
Right.
The way things go these days.
Right. And
So you ratchet back a few years. I spent 4 years in the Air Force trained as an Air Force combat photographer, but that doesn't mean you do any combat if you don't go to combat.
right.
I ended up shooting everything from hospital surgeries, documenting medical stuff, lots and lots of portraiture, lots and lots of event stuff, lots of air-to-air stuff. I flew in just about everything we had back in those days, except for a C-5A and a T-38. I never got in one of those, but I flew in pretty much everything else we had.
Oh, wow.
So that was good training.
Right. Was
Good
that tough to get into, or were you kind of wild and ready to hop in there? And
No, you mean tough for me to get into?
yeah, just to,
Did I
hop,
mention
because
that?
you're flying at, what do those planes fly at? What's the fastest you've gone?
Mach 2.
Wow.
Did I mention I used to milk cows? Hell no.
Right. Right.
Anything's more fun. We used to swing off that rope in the barn all the time. You know, that's just flight training.
Right.
Yeah, we would take pilots up and try to drown them. That's part of the training process. You know, they need to learn how to cut that chute when they get dropped into water. Should they pop a chute in over open water? So that was part of the training. We'd drag them behind a helicopter, and I had to document all that stuff all the time. So I spent a lot of time. That's why my ears are shot. Chopper noise. We didn't have good protection in those days.
Right.
But yeah, it's all good.
And then from there, so did you pick photography when you were in the Air Force?
Yeah, I took a bypass test. And talk about life and the flukes of life. The recruiter said, "Oh yeah, you can be a photographer." Sure. They lie. So I get to basic training, and they're trying to make you take an aptitudinal test when you go in, and they tell you what you're preternaturally good at. And I was pretty good at loadmaster stuff, and I was pretty good at linguistics, and I was pretty good at communications and so forth. So anyway, they were gonna make an airplane mechanic out of me. And I'm like, dude, a wrench does not fit my hand. No. So I raised my hand, and when they're doing a talk about bypass tests, right? So it's like, if you have special skill sets, so the Air Force doesn't have to pop you off to an 18-week training course somewhere. They save a bunch of money and a whole lot of time. So I raised my hand. I said, "Sergeant, I'm a photographer." And he says, "Yeah, BS. I hear that every single day." I said, "No, sir, I am. Honest, I have a press card and everything."
And you didn't have a press card?
I sure did.
Oh, you did?
Right on the front of my wallet. So I whipped it out and flashed it to him, and he goes, "Well, I'll be damned. You're the first guy that has ever been able to prove that you were actually a photographer." And I said, "Well, sir, I am. I am." And he said, "Well, you 0600, you go to this building, and you take this test, and see it. Good luck." And he was changed his whole tone, and he was like cheering me on, right? So I'm 0600. I'm in there. I'm a little bit early, and I get in there, and I sit down and take this multiple choice test, and yet it was a pass fail. You had to pass it or fail, right? I passed it by 1 point. I didn't know most of that stuff, but I knew enough to pass it. So then I went off to duty station, and off we went. Didn't have to go to tech school, but I was a by God Air Force photographer from that moment on. And I was so fortunate. I got to my place, and it was at the Air War College in Montgomery, and all of the sergeants I worked with and everybody was just top shelf. They were so great and so helpful to me, and I worked my tail off. Did I mention I used to milk cows?
Right, right.
And yeah, it was pretty fun. Did everything. Did axe murders and police work and broken airplane parts and you name it. We shot it.
Wow.
Great, good training. And then I had this other thing happen where I was a couple years later got into this situation where I was off at 4:30 every day. I had nothing to do. So I talked to the base commander about getting if I could go down and freelance for the newspaper in Montgomery. So I did. I went down there. They hired me right straight away. And I worked from 6 p.m. to midnight every day. And I'd back up, go to the Air Force job at 7:30 in the morning, work till midnight, rinse, repeat. That went on for 3 years probably. Wow. And then the minute I got discharged, they hired me full time.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's always kind of like you're working that much, but then you're probably so efficient with your time. And did you enjoy kind of doing that grind, or did you really enjoy
it wasn't
the
a grind, dude.
newspaper?
I was lapping that up. I was 19 and 20, 21 years old. All I wanted to do was, that.
Right.
And work my skill sets. And down at the paper in Montgomery, it was like, man, I was working with some heavy hitters down there. The guy that was in charge of the place had freelanced for Life magazine, covering the racial strife down there with Martin Luther King and the Selma March and all that sort of stuff, and the bombings.
Right.
And he had some chops.
Right.
And
yeah, that's kind of one thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, obviously so just some backstory, you've been doing some stuff on Facebook that says the Mitch Archives, and there's a picture that's you told a really detailed story on it, and it almost looks fake, and I'm not saying that to whatever, but it's just it's so haunting and kind of disturbing. And you can, how a picture says 1,000 words? Well, that's probably told the era in that one shot where you can see those cops and a black man drown at the bottom of a pool and then poking him with a stick. And if you could tell that story, because I almost couldn't finish the story. It was kind of so emotional.
Yeah, it's still that's 50-some odd years ago, and it still bugs me. It's like one of those defining moments of the career, and I was working the night shift, and I was ready to quit for the night. It was 11-ish, and a call came across the scanner. We had police scanners in the darkroom, so if something blew, we knew to get down there and cover it. And it drowning at the Holiday Inn, so I packed up my crap and I ran down there. It was only several blocks away. It wasn't far. And I came upon the scene in the pool, and there's a black man at the bottom of the pool, and there's 3 cops standing there poking him with a stick and joking about how people of certain pigmentation can't swim. And I got 1 or 2 frames off, and I looked over, and boom, here comes an EMT running off to my right side, dumping his radio belt, dives in the pool, grabs the guy, pulls him up on the side, starts doing CPR. The guy comes to, spitting and sputtering and coughing. And then I remember hearing this little voice in the back of my head, don't stop your job. And the gurney comes, they load the guy up, and I went and I said, I'm getting in with you. I'm getting in the ambulance with you. He said, no, you're not. I said, the hell I'm not. Get out of the way. I'm getting in there. So I jumped in the ambulance with him. And a little voice in the back was from my boss, Norman Dean, and he said, son, he said, you get on something that's real. He said, I want you to stick with it. He said, your job is to get in jail. My job is to get you out. Mm-hmm. So that was right there in my face. Jumped in the ambulance, and we rode, a mile or something to the hospital, and they're working on this guy, and the doors open to the ER, and the guy flatlines and dies right in front of me, right there. So now I've got this situation where I got about 20 cents in my pocket and no cab around. I just said, hell, I'm just running to the paper. So I ran up the hill in the heat all the way up. I got into the doors of the newspaper, cameras clanking all over the place. Guard blew past the guard, got in the elevator, and just as the door opened, John Williams, our big, tall, steady editor, was there. He said, Kezar, what are you doing? And you're all sweaty and running like a crazy man this time of night. So I told him the story. He said, son, You're never going to hear these words again, but I'm stopping the presses. He said, you get me a wet print as fast as you can. I'm sending reporters to the cop shop, the Holiday Inn, and the hospital. Well, that picture ran on the front page of the paper that next morning.
Do you still have that print of the paper? Did you ever keep
No, none of that was important to me at that
Right.
time. That was just life. And I was 19 and ignorant. So
Right.
I have a print of it, obviously, or you wouldn't have seen it. But anyway, the paper ran that picture on page 1 the next day. The cops were fired by 10 o'clock, and the bomb threats started right after that. So I was living off base. I had my own house and my own phone number, and the picture carried my credit line. And I was getting people threatening to blow me up at home for doing my job, basically.
And who was? I mean, Montgomery, Alabama. I mean, that's kind of like ground zero for racism. Could we say?
I have since learned racism is everywhere.
Right.
But it was first time I'd seen it. I mean, I never saw a black person until I was 16 years old, growing up in Northwest Minnesota. But I certainly had friends in the military who were people of color, and they were good friends of mine, And it's like I just knew when I saw that happen, I was like, all right, this can't get much more wrong. We need to shine a light on this, right here, right now, no matter what.
Do you think it was like bomb threats from within the police department and from?
There's no way of knowing. I mean, we had phones on the wall, right? Rotary dials. So no, I don't know what they were. And they had posted the paper got lots of bomb threats for stuff we were always doing. So, but they had to double it up there for a while because it was getting stupid.
Right. Yeah, that's.
Well, but that cemented my love for journalism. It's like, all right, I can actually push a button and make something happen that matters.
Right. Did you do some writing as well too? You did photography.
I did some writing. Yeah, I did some writing. Not a lot. I ended up writing a lot more many years later. I went to night school at Auburn and was in the English department. So I'm kind of an English major, even though I never graduated from college. But I probably got more ink than most people that have English majors over the years. I've written literally hundreds of stories, most of them about agriculture, but that's still
right. Was it like I don't know how to say it. Was it the boring side of agriculture, like you're talking about just like a crop or a seed or something, or did you ever get to do kind of a profile on a farm or a person?
Recently, so now we ratchet up to just last year. In the last 5 years of my career, I've been writing stories for the USDA, for the grasslands coalitions out of South Dakota. And we do 12 stories a year there, and they're really good human interest stories, and they're stories about soil conservation and stories about grasslands production and beef production and all of those sorts of things. And it's like,
what's crazy is I don't want to cut you off, but do you know the Olsons Mazeras?
Yeah.
That's very good friends of my family's.
I did their story. Yeah.
Yep.
And that would have been,
we hunt out there, and
a couple of years ago.
Known them forever. Because you mentioned that, and that's probably not something that many people have heard of, but I watched their video. And so you probably did that video.
I shot half the video, yeah. So my job there was like a 3-pronged deal. We were doing stills. Yep. Took 2 of us or 3 of us to shoot videos because we cracked those things, man. And we'd go into those farms or ranches, and we produced a 7 or 8 minute movie in 4 hours. It's crazy. Right. It's crazy busy. It's like old times, hubba. And
you guys kind of go in there with some drones too and kind of...
Oh, yeah. We got every trinket you can imagine.
Right. How many guys? You and someone else?
Me and Joe Dickey and Joe's son Charlie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Joe runs the show. I run the words, and I can shoot. So we make a pretty darn fine team. But I just retired from that this year. So.
Yeah. So.
Like I told somebody, I got about 8 million miles on my tired old butt, and if I get on another airplane, it better be my idea.
Right. Well, there's probably some stuff you still enjoy if it's not, threatening a time schedule.
Yeah,
right?
I'm all new at this retirement thing. We were just discussing it at coffee shop the other day. So, the definition of retirement is 6 Saturdays and a Sunday
Right.
every week.
Right.
Well, that ain't working out. I got stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think, I always kind of say I don't truly want to retire, but I'll do something easier. I'll mow lawns or you know what I mean? Kind of something.
Yeah. Well, my definition is I'm not taking any more work I don't want to do.
Right.
And I did that for a lot of years. It's not
Right.
not that I hated it, because I surely did not. But it's just, there's some of the stuff that you do, and it's like, geez, I'd rather be fishing right now.
Right. What type of work did you?
So I did journalism for a bunch of years. I worked as the Montgomery paper. Then I won a bunch of awards and got sucked in by the Tampa Tribune. So I stayed down there for oh my gosh, it was probably 7 years. I was in Florida. So I started out as a bureau photographer, and then they made me the director of photography after a couple years. And so I ran that shop. I had 37 shooters working for me. Still corresponding with some of them, which is sort of interesting. That's been a long time ago. And I had a really great staff down there, and we did some good things journalistically.
Tampa had to be a different place then, far less people and.
Oh no, it was busy. It was a hustle bustle. No, it was a big city. Tampa, St. Peter is the fastest growing counties in the country.
Oh right.
Yep, that's why I was down there, because we were shooting color for newspapers, which is a whole new deal. Like, nobody shot color, so that was a feather in my cap. And then when I got a call from the Minneapolis Star Tribune to come up and be the picture editor of the Minneapolis Star, because I had all this experience in shooting color for newspapers, so that was kind of a big deal. And I ended up hanging with those guys for 2 years, and then they had a layoff, and I could have probably stayed there, but I elected to go freelancing. So that's how in '82 I started working for myself. And that was interesting. Very luckily, I had known, as my Tampa job, I had known a lot of people that wanted to secondarily license our images from the big stuff we were covering down there from New York and so forth. So I had contacts in New York. So when I left the Star Tribune in '82 to freelance, I called my counterparts at Time and Newsweek and National Geographic, and I got work right away. I was very, very busy in the '80s and '90s. And so I did national magazine work for those guys, Sports Illustrated, and I had about a 3-year contract with National Geographic. I worked regularly for Time and Newsweek, chasing politicians around and doing all that sort of thing. Then after that, corporate world started calling a little bit, so that got to be a little more money and a little different kind of tack and a lot more finesse-y looking kinds of imagery. So I learned how to do all of that, and hired some great assistants and stole them blind. they knew all these tricks. I'm like, whoa, amber gels, how's that? Let's do it. How do you do it? Let's do it. And we teamed up, and I'm still friends with those guys after all these years. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So I ended up doing corporate work, and that's when the travel really got crazy. I worked in South America, China, Italy, Germany, England, all over the place.
Wow.
Lived on airplanes with 10 and 12 cases of gear. Ugh.
Right. Was that mostly your National Geographic?
No, none of that. No, none of that. The Geographic thing I did primarily was just here in the States. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But that corporate stuff got nuts, and was traveling all over the place. And I mean, go back and forth to Houston 5 times in a couple months just to shoot these things or whatever. And then I also started getting into agriculture about then. I did a first cover for Successful Farming magazine in 1983 or 4, I think it was. So over the time, I think I logged 206 covers with those guys. Yeah, so they kept me busy too. We'd shoot California or Seattle or Maine or someplace, just pinballing around. By the time I had done a few years of that, I'd been in all 50 states. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're doing the corporate stuff, was it like an advertising thing, or were you?
It's kind of like corporate journalism in a way, because the onus is on you to tell their story, and they have a very scripted story about what they want to talk about and how they want to present it. So there I'm, instead of being a journalist, I'm just taking what I know of how to communicate visually and do it in a corporate setting where it looks credible, and it is, and you just tell their story.
And did you have interpreters and stuff with you that?
Yeah.
When you were yep,
you have to, otherwise
Right.
you're stuck.
Right.
Hello, I don't speak Chinese. I don't.
Yep.
I did eat dog though.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
What is it? Did you know going into it?
You
You ate
they
dog?
taste just like meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I didn't know. It was on a hot pot thing one night. And it's like, what is this? And it's like, oh,
Right.
woof woof. Here we go.
Right.
Eat man's best friend.
Is there anything you saw, in another country that was kind of disturbing or far different from the U.S. that really kind of?
Yeah,
You think
Venezuela
of the-
just made me angry. It was like we
Yeah.
were trying to get out of there, and I think I had 12 cases of gear down there in the airport in Maracaibo, and all of a sudden they all disappeared. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't funny. This is my livelihood, you guys, and they're all the cases are open and they're pawing through them. And like, wait, what are you looking for? Well, anyway, then long story short, I ended up having to bribe a guy 4 Benjamins to get out of there with my gear. And it all magically got on the plane, and I sat on the plane next to a bunch of oil rig dudes from Houston who were flying back. And I said, I told them I was just PO'd. I told them my story, and I said, it's Maracaibo. It's always like that. I said, seriously? Oh, yeah, if you want to get anywhere, you got to grease somebody. And I was like, lovely.
Right.
Lovely. So I got to Miami airport, and I ran to the customs guy, and I said, dude, I need to get you guys, bring your dogs over and smell my stuff or whatever you do. He said, oh, you just came out of Maracaibo, huh? I said, oh, brother, this is a daily occurrence.
Right.
Yeah, another education.
There's some countries like where you realize we're not in a democracy anymore, and this is a little shady. I mean, I know people that have gone to Russia and they felt like everything's fine, but they even avoid the cops, knowing that the cops aren't quite.
Well, you look at security, like southern Brazil. I was down there one time, and we went to a fancy restaurant. I was with this guy who was our emissary, and he's like, we pull up to the restaurant, and he's driving a Volkswagen Scirocco. It was a new one, and he had holes cut in the floorboard on either side of the transfer case, and I'm kind of in the front seat with him, looking at this. I'm like, what's this all about? Wow. He pulled up the restaurant. He pulled out a log chain. The transmission to the steering wheel with a great big lock on it. I said, what's this all about? He said, oh, they'll steal you blind here. You don't want to, you gotta lock your car up. Like, what? Seriously?
Whole different meaning to locking your car.
Yeah, a whole different meaning to locking up your wheels. That was nuts.
Right.
Anyway, nobody bothered his car, so I guess it works. But
Right.
yeah, it's coming from a background like I did. That was kind of an eye popper.
Right. And so how long did you stay with Star Trib until you ended up?
I was just there 2 years.
Just 2 years?
Yeah, just 2 years. It was a short run. I wish I'd have stayed longer because I sure like those guys. I'm still talking to them all the time. In fact, I'm doing a talk next week for one of them.
Oh, really?
Downtown Mini at the Praxis Gallery. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Same deal, only with visuals.
Oh, yep. Just talking about your history and career.
They ran out of good people, so they stuck me in there.
Right. Well, they'll get a good one, yeah. No, and then so you go to Wendigo Image. Is that what you went to?
So no, that's a whole nother story. So the career, I keep telling everybody I've had about 10 careers in photography. So started off as a small newspaper guy, right? And then Air Force photographer, that's 2. And then I got into big major newspapers. So that's 3 and 4 and 5. And then that led to national magazine work. So that's 6. And then corporate work, annual reports is 7, right? And then I got a couple of jobs. I had a guy from one of the bigger sporting goods companies. I was shooting. I hunt and fish all the time, and I'm always filming, taking pictures of that sort of stuff. So I would submit those to different magazines and so forth. And I got a lot of people paying attention to what I was doing in that vein because I took all of the skill sets I had from those other jobs and did it in the outdoor space. And I got a packet from one of the art directors at a big sporting goods company, and he said, "Okay, I'm sending you some samples. I got to find somebody to shoot this catalog work." So he sent me 12 samples of work that he liked, and he called me up. He said, "Did you get it? Did you get the FedEx package?" I said, "Yeah, I got it." He said, "Can you do that kind of work?" I said, "I think so, because 10 of these are mine." He sent me 12 samples,
Right.
and 10 of them I'd already shot him, and he's like, "Okay, then, real good.
Right.
We're in." So that led me to shooting even more of that stuff. And then since I had been selling stock photography through a couple of agencies in New York, I tried to market some of the hunting and fishing stuff. Well, they didn't really want it because they didn't understand it. They were from
Right.
New York, and they don't have a dirty knife, and they don't know the sharp end of a bullet. So it was like, well, how about if I start my own agency? Is that okay with you guys? And he says, "Yeah, you're in a whole different space than we are. We don't care. Just do it. Knock it out. Have good luck." So that led me and my partner Ellen to start Wendigo Images. And she's still running it today. And it's been 26 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had 220 odd photographers from around the world submitting their work to us, and we ran it as a picture agency. And it's still going. We're about to rebuild it again for the third time.
Okay, so
Just to keep
when you
current
rebuild it, just kind of rebrand
yeah,
it.
not rebrand it, but it's just to rework the electronics. Everything changes, right? So our stuff is a little
Right.
creaky right now, and we're gonna.
So do you guys just kind of own the rights to images and sell
No,
those,
like
or
if-
do you always
like
create
if-
for
if- like-
custom?
No, like if you came to me and you said, "Hey, I got all these pictures," and I'd say, "All right, they're saleable. We'll take them, and we sell them for you, and you just get a check when they sell."
Okay.
And then you own the copyright because it's your pictures. We're just an agent. It's a picture agency, so
Right.
we're just the agent for that deal. But that's been running around for a long bunch of time, still going.
Right.
The magazine industry has changed
Right.
just drastically, like in the last couple of years. I mean, we've had some of the bigger players are all digital now, so we saw huge fluctuations as soon as digital came out, and I was the first guy I think I was the first guy in the metro area, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, to just take all my cameras down and wholesale them off and go fully digital. That was a big watershed day.
Right.
I know I was doing a corporate shoot in Montana for, I think it was Loopold, doing their catalog in Montana mountains, and it was the first full-time shoot that we had done on digital. So there's a little learning curve there. So we'd shoot all day, and art director would look over everything. He said, "Oh, these are great." And then I realized, oh my gosh, I got to burn all these images to a CD-ROM because that's the only medium we had that was any good and stable. So I'd stay up, shoot all day, stay up all night, dumping files and burning them. And you get 2-3 hours of sleep and do it again and then again and again. I'm glad it was only a 4-day shoot.
Right.
And I was about dead at the end of it.
Right. So what was your least favorite thing to shoot? Like, is there anything you kind of got a call and you go, I'd rather not, but it's work?
No, I don't really have a least favorite thing because everything I do is short and I got a short attention span. So it's, you know what ADD stands for?
Attention.
Ain't doing that.
Right.
So even if I don't really enjoy something all that much, it's usually over really quickly. So,
Right.
After being at this for 55 years or so, I did learn a few tricks on how to go quick. So,
Right. Yeah. And did you enjoy kind of the outdoor shooting the most, or because?
Well, that was pretty juicy because, I mean, for a guy that likes to hunt and fish and you're working for the likes of Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, it's like, it's like falling off a turnip truck.
Right.
Throw me in that briar patch. So I got on some crazy good hunts. I mean, corporate hunts in, Africa, for instance. And, elk hunting in New Mexico and, chasing critters all over the bloody place. It's good stuff. And I always had this rule. It's like, so I got to work, but Uncle Mitch has a rule. I'm going to make some meat first. So I get that out of the way. My tag is punched. Now I'm good. I can really seriously get at it here.
When you guys book trips, did you always just kind of book them just the amount of days you'd need to work, or did you ever have kind of a flex day where you could kind of see what's going on? Or
Yeah, it ran the gamut. I mean, sometimes they're, back when I was busy. I mean, only had 4 or 5 days to do this job, and then I got something else on the book. So there was a lot of shoehorning them in, but then every now and then there's one or two where you could stay an extra 3-4 days and do a little personal fun too.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all about a little personal fun, so there's that.
And now the dog training endeavor.
Oh my God, yeah. I like I said earlier, if I get on another airplane, it better be my idea. So there's that. And I started. I was training dogs. I was training horses. I had this old Grandma Amanda Kezar. She was this old horsewoman, from way back. If you look at her history, she ran teams of horses from Middle River, Minnesota, out to the Dakotas when she was a young woman by herself. Team of horses in a wagon. So she was the original food truck. And her clientele were crews of guys that were farming, planting in the spring, plowing in the fall, harvesting. So she would go out and do that. And, this is before cars were invented, right? That's just 2 generations back.
Right.
How sick is that?
Right.
That's just crazy. Right? I saw her talk about that, and then the next thing you know, Neil Armstrong's walking on the moon the year I graduated from high school.
Right.
And she was just, oh my. She was amazed by all of that stuff. But anyway, she, being on the farm, we had, the dairy farm and all that, and we had plenty of horses and dogs and stuff. But she taught me a lot about working horses. And horses and dogs, to train those guys at the outset, is pretty similar. They all lick their lips when they're learning something, and they constantly looking at you. And when they're doing that, you're getting through. You're doing it. So it just sort of came to me through my buddy Mike, who was a really good dog trainer friend of mine for like the last 40-odd years. And he's like, dude, you should do this, if you don't want to sit on airplanes anymore. So he kind of got me jump-started on it. And, I've been having a blast doing that.
Yep.
People are grateful. I don't have to think about it when I'm done.
Right. Is there ever any dogs that are a challenge to where you're just tearing your hair out trying to rein them in, or?
No, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Right.
I mean, they're all popping wheelies at first, and some of them want to pull your arm clean out of the socket and all that good stuff. But no, you get your methods, and
right.
I love them all. I didn't know at first. You always hear people talking about how these dogs are stupid. It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Not at all. They're all pretty darn bright.
Right.
I used to think these little yappy dogs were crazy, and now I, guess what I'm doing? Running Jack Russell Terriers, which I was told you can't train those guys. I'm like, guess what? I got mine trained to blood trail deer.
Right.
And turkeys.
Right. So well, you kind of have them. You're the only person I know that pheasant hunts with Jack Russell Terriers.
Oh, do we ever? I call them Jack Daniels terrorists.
Do they, if they kick up a rabbit, are they right on it too?
Not if I do.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come right back.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of do that too, just unorthodox hunting with a dog that's not made for. And what's weird is of the 3 pheasants we got this year, 2 of them he caught in the air, 1 of them I shot. He caught a squirrel on the ground in the woods.
Whoa, that takes some chops.
He's just kind of blazing speed, and he can catch a frisbee higher than the ceiling. So it's just athleticism. You can jump in the back of the truck with the tailgate down and not touch it, and so you're just trying to, and you can't tell a dog to rein it in. So I'd only had a pointer before, so I just flushed the bird myself. Right. Well, when he smells them, he just ramrods them. Yeah. He 100% at it. So, well, actually, the day that walleye behind me, I'm at my friend's house over by Buffalo, and we're fishing, and my buddy gets a 26-inch walleye on. That's what it ends up being. My dog's with. I'm yelling at the dog because I can see in his eyes that he wants that walleye. Well, the river was low. The dog jumped off the bank and landed right on the walleye I was trying to net while I was trying to net it. And that's the thing. Like, once they get that eye for something, and those cattle dogs love to chase stuff. So it's kind of, that's a tough That's a shot collar deal for me.
Yep.
I can't really break that deer sometimes.
It would take a little incentivization.
Right.
Yep. Dogs are fun. I know they're just a blast, man, and it's so much fun watching them turn. And the clients are, whoa,
Right.
magic.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So like with hunting and fishing, is there ever, you got to take a lot of pictures, but are there ever any hunts that you kind of thought something was really special, or hunt you got to spend with the boys? Because I know, your boys are, well, they're gone, they're military, but
big and gone, yeah.
But do they ever get to make it to deer camp, or is that not quite?
Not much. Both my sons are in the military, so their time is their own, and Nick's got kids, and it's like, I don't think we're gonna pull that off. We talk smart about it quite often. It's like, hey, you got to go on this elk hunt with me. I told Ben when he graduated from high school, well, I'm gonna get you on an elk hunt. Well, then he went in the Naval Academy. Mm-hmm. Well, then he went to 18 different schools, and then he went to overseas. So it never works.
Right.
And talked to him just like last week. I said, all right, I'm going elk hunting next fall in Colorado. You need to get your butt out there and come with us. And he agreed. It won't work. Mm-hmm. We talk smart. It's not going to work, I don't think. If it did, I'd be just giddy. But,
right.
No.
So just getting you guys three together all at the same time,
yep,
does that happen rarely then?
Yeah, they were both home at Christmas, and we had the Jack Russells out, and we put up a bunch of pheasants at a game farm, and that was our toot, and it was fine. Right. They got to burn a little powder and walk behind crazy dogs. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, and this is totally off topic, but you posted something on Facebook too that was, one of it was, you were just saying with the Ukraine, and I don't know if we want to get in the weeds on that, but like it was a documentary. It was like Ukraine on Fire, Winter on Fire.
Winter on Fire, yeah.
And I watched, that's really what I watch is documentaries. And I tried to watch it last night and something was wrong with our Netflix. But I watch a ton of documentaries. Is that kind of your jam too, or are you kind of?
That's totally my jam.
That's all I watch.
That's journalism with moving pictures, generally is what it is. And if something were to pull me back into photography hard, it would be that.
Right.
I'm sitting here now. I'm only new at this, not working kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, that lights my lamps.
Right.
I could see something happening. What kinds
are your favorite documentaries to watch? Like, do you ever? I mean, I don't know if sports are your thing, but have you ever seen like the ESPN 30 for 30s?
No, I don't do sports.
Right. But there is one, the Bo Jackson at Auburn. That, I mean, you might not care about it, but Bo Jackson is a big bow hunter too. Okay. That is a pretty interesting, just kind of the flexibility that guy had to play 2 pro sports. Now he doesn't go to any games, doesn't watch sports on TV. He only bow hunts. Like he kind of, one of those deals, you're a participant, but when you're done, you don't watch or care. It's kind of just an interesting take.
That was pretty much my take on sports. When I was a newspaper guy, I had to go on average 8 football games a week. Mm-hmm. No, I got burned out. Mm-hmm. And I always give the sports writers a lot of crap because I say, sports is just a toy box of life, man. We're going to go out and do some real stories. So that got, it was like all this hype about how important it is. I'm like, dude, in a week it doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that was kind of my take. Anyway, so my sport is to go out and make meat, right, and try to do it as ethically and as cleanly as possible. And I also learned how to cook. So I had about a 4-year run of a cook show, all on wild game stuff, and that was a hoot. So, and
Steve Ranella and stuff too.
I did
acquaintances.
Well, no, we shot him for about a week or so in turkey camp last year. In South Dakota, so. Oh right! Really good dude?
Did you Black Hills hunt or did you?
We Black Hills
with turkeys. Rifle or shotgun or bow?
It was shotgun turkey.
Because I think you can use a rifle for those Merriams, can't you? South Dakota has some odd rules with.
Yeah, I don't know. They were just using shotguns. Right. I was just humping camera gear, so.
Right. Because I actually think you can use a rifle
Yeah,
for
I
a
think
turkey, which seems
I've
like
heard that. Like,
you might as well open a chicken coop and shoot a pigeon because, you know, like
I don't
if you
know.
got 300 yards on a turkey, I think you can make something happen.
well,
but,
if you could do a 300-yard headshot, now we're talking.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you hit it with a 22 250 in the breast, you might not really
There
have.
wouldn't be much meat there.
Right.
Yeah, I got into that long range shooting too a little bit. So,
Right. Oh, did you?
oh yeah,
What caliber? What do you?
6.5 Creedmoor.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Got a Bergara.
Oh, do you? Bergara, B14 probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know those guys. Right.
I reload and I
Oh, sure.
customize guns and
Okay.
think around, and I mean what got me into that was predator hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I started predator hunting a lot and getting good at it and understanding the wind and whatever, but then it also became some dogs are going to hang up at 250 yards, sit down and pace, and then you got to be able to reach them.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reloading, and you kind of realize you can make a hot, heavy round that can reach out more than a factory round. That's far more accurate, you know.
Yeah, there's some crazy technology out there, and some of the stuff, like, I don't know. I just shot my first deer at 326 yards.
Oh,
this
wow.
fall, first one at that distance. Yeah,
Right.
but when you can hit a baseball-sized target at 400 regularly,
Right.
that isn't difficult. Just
Right.
trigger pull.
So how far do you shoot then when
all
you
the way to the end. My goal is this summer. Well, we got kind of punked
Try.
out by COVID, right? So it was
Right.
like, couldn't get out and do this. There's nowhere to shoot around where I
Right.
live that's that far. I mean,
Right.
if you got a 400-yard pull, that's pretty good. So I was in South Dakota. I got my rifle dialed into 600, but I want to get out to 1200 and get serious. That 6.5 will do it.
So you must have a scope with turrets and stuff, or do you just kind of
I got a 5 to 25 Vortex on there. Yeah.
Okay, and you can zero out. You can go back to your zero after you.
Like nothing. Yep. It's pretty sweet. It's fun learning that stuff. Is it something new? I'm interested in it. I'm pretty good at it. I can shoot, so there's that.
Right. Yeah, I've always kind of stayed away from those only because, like with predator hunting at night, you don't really have the time to, everything's kind of reaction and they don't sit still. So I always just try to go with a scope with as less parallax as I can.
Oh,
and
sure. Yeah.
Sometimes you're shooting a 12 power, but they're far.
It's like camera gear.
Right.
It's like camera gear.
Everything's
The more time you put on it, the better you get at it. And if you have to think about it when you pull it out of the bag, you just lost.
Right. Yeah. Now, so we run that tournament over by Hollywood every year. Well, now thermal's legal, so that's really effective. But I don't own any of it.
Yeah, I've never done that.
It's the winners this year shot 7 in halfway through the first night, and that's how many you can. That's kind of what you go off of. Well, they just kept hunting because they kept shooting them, so they ended up with 11 and a fox. So
Around here.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, last year we had 88 shot for the tournament. Just calling in. No running, no whatever, just calling in. It doesn't seem like.
How do I sign up for this?
Right, I'll show you. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would be possible because you don't see coyotes often.
No.
But when you're out there looking for them at night, it's amazing how many you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a ghost to most people.
Right.
If you know where to look and whatever, and we raise some pigs here. And the pig scraps. I mean, sometimes I'll keep the coyotes kind of coming around and then go call them. And then if you throw a camera on those and then go, about the time frame to, But we don't do that everywhere. But it's kind of like dairy farms. They're always going to have a calf die or
Yep.
So they're always some of the most slam dunks of spots. Well, on your road, we hunt a guy's place there.
Oh, where I used to
Where
live?
you used to live.
Yep.
Yep. That's a good spot.
Oh, yeah. I put a few down over there.
Yep.
They had it coming, too.
Oh, yeah.
Still mad at them.
Yeah. Kill dogs or cats or anything?
They just had it in general terms,
Right. But, well, anyway, we can wrap it up unless
right.
you got anything
Thanks,
else.
man.
But, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Heck yeah.
sitting
Well, I hope
down
it
and-
worked.
Yeah.